Well, good morning. We'll go ahead and call to order the Rural Fire District's board meeting. Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call please.
John Foster.
Here.
Jim Stearns.
Here.
John Ellis.
Here.
Randy Court.
Here.
And Craig Berry.
Here. All right, go to the order. Any guest members or staff?
I do have one thing that I just discovered a couple of days ago in there, I don't know when the right time to bring this up is. It regards our paperwork that we sent into the county for the upcoming election notice. I'm referring to page 35 in your board packet. And that's the SEL 803 form. The next page is the explanation on the backside of it is the exclamatory statement. And I think the exclamatory statement is very well written and correct. But my concern comes down under the summary on the 803. And the second paragraph in that summary says the proposed new levy would allow for maintaining services and building reserves for future fire apparatus and equipment. That's not at all what this does. We have a capital levy for apparatus and reserve for future purposes of equipment. We don't buy equipment and apparatus out of this levy, do we?
I think that we buy equipment and maybe contribute to apparatus out of the general fund. This would go into the general fund.
And now we're combining two. We have capital levy and then we have a local option. And we're combining capital into our local option. It sounds like
There's no specific, verbiage that says that this can't be used for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what it goes to is our credibility. If somebody comes back and says, what apparatus are you buying out of this fund?
But we're able to buy apparatus. So I don't think it affects our credibility because I didn't rule it out. So I think we're fine.
Okay. I would like it noted that I have concerns about the verbiage.
thanks for bringing that up. That is a little bit messy.
Is this something that you should address, or does it need to be corrected, or?
It's too late.
Yeah, can't correct it now.
I don't see an issue.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I can see where the future fire apparatus kind of make it confusing. So, okay, moving on. Is there any other bit of the order?
Mr. President,
Yes.
this week, the union decided to put a argument in favor of the tax levy, discussed with you and the chief, and I wanted to bring a copy of that for all of the board members. Okay. And we got that submitted. Should be printed in the ballot.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
We had to make some small adjustments in order to get it to fit the size.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the 24-25 audit presentation.
Okay.
Thanks for having me today. In front of you, there's an audit report and there's some loose pages in the front. I'm going to start with the loose pages. First loose page is what I do in my overview. It's just highlighting what's changed during the year. The first number on there is assets. And it shows in June 25, cash basis audit shows that we have $1,913,000 from all funds in June of 25. A year before it's $1,968,000. So during this year, we decreased our carryovers 54,000. Right below that, the overview shows cash basis ins and outs. So we brought in 3,272,000, spent 3,358,000, had some other income of 31,000. So the net change during the year for the general fund was 8,987. It was 53,686 last year. So there's a change there of about 44,000. Last thing on the list there is budget versus actual. Our receipts were budgeted at 2,474,000, actual 2,656,000. So we received a little less than budget. We received a little more than budget by 182,000 for the actuals in the middle column. And the disbursements were under budget by 670,000, and other transfers and receipts were over by 120,000. So according to your budget, your funds were going to decrease by $1,080,000 instead of going down by $1,080,000 according to your budget. It went down by 107. So with the general fund, we're better than anticipated. So the overview is this. You get a clean audit opinion. Financially, we're pretty close to last year. You stay within your budget. When we look at the recommendation letter, there's two letters that are loose here. The first letter you come to starts at the top with significant audit findings. This is my comments to you as a board that when I was engaged to do this audit, I had certain expectations. My comments back to you are on this page that said there were no difficulties in performing the audit, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. You gave me all the information I needed, no outside consultants, no other findings or issues. So went just as planned. So good job there. The next page is my recommendation letter, and there really is recommendations that are always in your letter. One is that we draft this financial statement. It should look exactly like what you've seen all year long in your books and records, but we're just putting it in a different format. So that's the one that says other matters, financial statement preparation. On the top of the next page, there's three comments that just really have to do with controls. Remember, in an audit, your responsibility is make sure you have controls in place that protect the district's finances and produce financial statements that are true and accurate. We call that free from material misstatement. So part of that segregation of duties, putting controls in place, and as people change in those processes, make sure at least once a year you take a look at those controls. And if you need to make changes as people change, you do that. So that's all of those comments are really pointing to. I didn't find any inadequacies in your control.
And before you dive into
Yeah.
the booklet, can I go back to your first page?
Yeah.
So there's a difference of $1 million on the very last figure.
Yeah.
What's the explanation for that?
Can I show you in the report?
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
show you in the report. I'm gonna bounce back.
Give me a teaser.
Yeah. If you look at page 29 in the report, the very back of the report is the budget versus actual effect. And if you look at your net change in fund balance in the final budget column on page 29, it said that if you spend all your contingency, if you spent all your capital and materials, you had budgeted to spend $1 million more than you received. You had $1.6 million to start with, and you were going to end it with that fund with 553. This is according to your budget. So A lot of times what happens is we don't get everything purchased that we anticipated. You know, we hope not to spend some of our carryover because we might need it next year. If we don't spend it this year, we will need it next year. So that $1 million is just the fact that you budgeted to spend some of your carryover on certain items. Contingency, you didn't spend, and capital items, you didn't spend. So that's the bulk of
Well,
what
this
you
is,
budgeted.
this
to
is the
spend.
general fund here. Right?
This is general.
General, yeah, it's all general.
And in the middle column is the actual. So what that's saying is when you look at the variance column, you know, it says on the receipts, you budgeted 2,474,000, you received 2,006,000. So you got more in than budgeted.
Okay.
And under disbursements, we budgeted 3,830,000. We spent 3,159,000. So we're under on each of those broad categories. Couple $100,000 in personnel, 200,000 on materials, and 190,000 in capital items. So,
Okay.
and then under contingency, we didn't spend any of the contingency.
So that could be the unspent grant fund. Okay,
Not part of it.
that's part of it, the
That's part of it.
600,000. Yeah, 670. Okay,
And
that's
when you
a
look-
big number right there.
When you look at that variance column down, third line from the bottom, we're about $1 million difference. And it's not just any one, item. A little more on the receipt side, a little less on the spending side.
That's what I look for, 670.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on that million, are any of those grant monies? That
There are some,
So
Yeah, I think that's 670.
how much of that in grant monies? Do we have a breakdown on that?
yep, let's back up to
Okay.
page 2.
Okay.
The first part of your report is what I call management's discussion and analysis. And you'll see a 2-year comparison on pages 2 through 7, I believe. But on page 2, it shows, you know, the cash this year, the cash last year. And this answers your question on, well, how much of it is somebody else's money? If you look at June 24, we had $1,968,000. And 545,000 of that was restricted, meaning it had already had some, you know, earmarked money. That number this year is 416. So we've got some carryover money that's already been earmarked. And so the unearmarked, the unrestricted was about 1,496,000, about 1,005,000. Did that answer the question as far as?
So
There's a note that describes what's it restricted for, and I'll come to that.
So then that number that you were showing at the year end, over $1 million and everything, 400 of that is the grant.
Yeah, of the money that's on hand in that left
Money
hand
that's on
column,
hand. So
1,913,000, 416,000 is earmarked, restricted. We can only spend it on what the money was there for.
thank you.
The comparison of the 2 years is really on page 3. And if you look at the receipts this year, 3,304 was higher than last year, 3,144. If you look at what that's made up of, the differences, we have a little bit more on property taxes. Normally, our property taxes go up by 3% plus new construction. Charges for services depends on how much ambulance activity and things that we get reimbursed for. And then the grant line is higher this year than last year. Because somebody's out there hustling money to get certain things done. And so basically your $150,000 increase in revenues was those things.
Looks like the property taxes only increased by 1.61%.
It did.
How can that happen?
This is cash basis, so it's
Okay.
what comes in during the
Okay.
year.
All right, so
We could have got some reimbursements. People could have, you know, not paid their taxes on time and then the properties get foreclosed.
okay, so there's outstanding
Yeah,
balances that haven't been paid yet.
that can be. But generally, you know, you budgeted on that page we just looked at in the back. You budgeted to collect, 1,481,000 and you collected 1,528,000. So you collected more than you budgeted. Remember, I've always said is if you're gonna guess on the resources, guess a little low. If you're gonna guess on the expenditures, guess a little high. And then you'll be pleasantly surprised that your cash will be. Okay. Under the disbursements back on page 3, We spent 3,358,000 this year. Last year, we spent 3,243,000. Last year, when I presented, I said, good job, you paid off your last debt payment. So in that June 24, your last debt payments were 126,000. We don't have any anymore, so there's absent in that June 30, 25 column. Capital, we spent a little bit more this year than last year. Personnel was a couple 100,000 higher than last year, so 8.46% increase in personnel costs. Well, that's PERS and health insurance and, union increases and all the general costs. Last year, I made the comment is remember your property taxes go up 3%, your other costs go up 8 to 10%. So be careful. So that just shows that was anticipated. You spend a little less in materials and services, and we'll look at that. But the third line from the bottom is you spend a little bit of your carryover both years. 99,000 last year, 54,000 this year. So our funds have gone down from 2 million to 1,968,000 to 1,913,000. No alarm, it's still fine. When I look at the big picture, I look at the total spent this year, 3,358,000, and I look at the total carryover that is not restricted. So remember I said on that left-hand page there that we have about 1.5 million that's unrestricted. You have a half a year's operations sitting there, which sounds like a lot of money, but you have to make it to property tax time and you have to cover the summer period. It's pretty expensive. And some of your payments are annual and upfront the first quarter of the year. So it's a pretty expensive period, but that's about what I'd like, 6 months operating reserve. And then you can wait till property tax time and still operate. On page 4, the next page, there's an analysis of what do you have in which fund. In June 24, there's 1,968,000, 1,802,000 within the general fund. We had some in the capital levy fund and some in the local option fund. Local option was designed, as we discussed earlier, to supplement general operations. So you just receive money on the local option tax and sweep it over to the general fund to supplement operations. So that $35,000 to $37,000 in the local option levy is just waiting to be swept. Capital is set aside for capital. And you'll see that the capital fund went from 128 to 181. So you move some money over to the capital. And in your world, 181,000 doesn't buy much, so I'm on page 4 in the middle of the page that just breaks down how much money you have and what fund is it in. And the general fund went down 107,000. So it swept some money in from the local option and out to the capital levy fund. So we put some money over there. That's the only reason it went up. Just the character of the money changed, but it didn't change overall very much. The budget versus actual that we already looked at in the back is mirrored on page 5. That just shows that, the third line from the bottom, there's our $1 million. If the budget said we're going to spend some of our carryover, we spent 100,000 of our carryover. And so we're pleasantly surprised we're better by more than $1 million than budget. Pages 7, 8, and 9 are the audit report. And it's a clean audit opinion. We need to hit that. Page 10 is the balance sheet. And this helps answer your question is what's that restricted money there for? Again, the capital levy is restricted for capital levy. The local option levy is going to supplement operation. And grants were $416,000. So when you looked at the restricted money or committed money, the 416 is your grant money. And then you've got capital and local option that's somewhat restricted, even though we're going to spend money on capital items, we're going to spend money on operations. Let's look to the very back of the report, page 32. For budget law, you're subject to your broad categories, meaning that I budget one number for personnel and I can spend it within that on anything I want. I just can't go to the total. The budget was 2,797,000. The actual was 2,557,000. We're under by 239,000. Sometimes, the way we budget vacation and conflagration, we put a number in there just in case we have a payout, and sometimes we pay it out under the regular line item. So, the total is what really matters. We're under by 239,000.
For that capacity grant too, that we weren't fully utilizing.
Think so. Then on the next page is materials and services. Our budget was 843. Our actual 601. We're under on a lot of items, but the total is 241,000. And under capital outlay, we budgeted station upkeep and apparatus and equipment, and we didn't spend any out of the capital items there. We're under there. Overall, we're under on the general fund by $670,000. The last two pages of the report are comments that I have to make according to the state. Did you comply with all the requirements? And the bulleted items on the bottom of page 35 say, did you follow, how you keep your money, borrowing money, budgeting money, insurance, grants, investments, and public contract. As far as we can tell, you followed all the requirements in the law. The last page there just says, comment on controls, and your controls are adequate. And we only had those couple suggestions at the very beginning. So I think I'll stop and answer questions at this point. See if I can put anything more fully.
So I think you said that the amount of cash we carry forward is healthy.
Yes,
So would you like to see 6 months there?
I like to see 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
And some people push it 4 months. It's hard to make the property tax time. But I like to.
Seems like these grants that we continue to fish for make the bookkeeping and the auditing more complicated to keep track of to me. Are we doing that properly? I mean, we've got a Wards Creek initiative grant that I don't have any ability to see where the money been, where it is, where it's going, and stuff like that. How do you normally track?
Good question. Most people like you are seeking money for either personal or projects, and they're special. So it's pretty easy to track it, Randy, that as long as we have a source of money, when you apply for it, they tell you what it can be spent on, and you have line items that you control that. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a simple process. We just have to make sure that we can track it. There's some time frames and requirements for spending. Do we qualify for that? So it generally is to your advantage to seek grants because it leverages your money to go part of it. The scary part is sometimes you have match that you have to use your money, and you don't want to spend money on things you didn't intend to spend money on. So you have to really want what they're going to give you. And sometimes they're multiple years. So you're committing future budgets for paying out, and so it's generally a good thing to think it through. It's not a problem tracking. You guys do a great job tracking the money. Just somebody on the board, I think, should weigh in on each one of those grants and just say, hey, let's track that as we go to make sure there's no timeframes that we're going to sneak up on us.
Yeah, so it's auditable. It's in.
I don't have a problem, but it makes the money go farther.
Thank you, Rick.
One of the questions that I had written on that, following up on that, is you were told previously that some of these grants that we are pursuing in the future, your firm wouldn't be able to assist us in the audits, and I'm curious why that would be.
Yeah, let's talk about that. There's levels of audits, but one of what you're referring to, if you get more than $750,000 of the grants, it bumps you into what's called a single audit. It's a lot of bureaucracy and we don't like it, so we choose not to do it. And so if you have a single audit, we would refer you to somebody else to do this single audit because we don't like those.
Now, is that a single grant of 750,000 or is it a totality of all grants?
Combined Fed money spent in 1 year, 750. They're raising that, in the future, because 750 doesn't buy what 750 used to.
So if we receive a grant for 1.3, but we don't spend 750,000, we're okay.
Yes, so it's 750 spent in 1 year.
And it has to be federal money.
And it's federal money, but be careful, because some state grants started with the feds. This big beautiful bill and all the funding,
They're just a pass through.
they're past $2.
Yes.
But the feds have restricted some of the money. So the state will tell you they're short of money, but mostly because they got less from the feds. But do be careful, find out the source of the money. It has a CFDA number, which is a catalog of federal domestic assistance. And if it has a CFDA number, then probably it originated with the feds and you just need to know how much. But your key is exactly that. Is if you get a $2 million grant and you spend it over 3 years, you're probably going to be less than 750 as long as you don't spend too much in 1 year. And some of those projects actually were going to take you 3 years anyway. Yeah, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Can you speak a little bit more about your recommendations? I'm particularly concerned, are we applying our segregation duties and internal controls
You are
correctly?
Yeah, so
Any recommendations?
So that's the thing is, as personnel changes, then some of the controls in place will change. So just monitor it. And if something changes, see if we're still adequate. When we start an audit, we do what we call a walkthrough. And we look at the policies in place and procedures in place and say, do we have any concern areas when we design what the risk is to your organization?
You compare it to practice.
And we compare it to practice, yeah. Our process there is just to try to figure out what areas of your agency do we have concern with, and really, when 70% of your expenditures is personnel, it's pretty easy that we look at personnel, we look at, the cost of operations, we look at capital outlay, we look at that. So I don't have any concerns with that. I'm just saying is as people change, controls change. I forgot to mention on page 24, third. If we can bounce to the top paragraph on page 24. In the old days, we had this, lovely PERS disclosure that was 7 pages long that talked about this, unfunded liability with PERS. We don't have to do that anymore. But this little paragraph does a little bit of the same thing. Every 2 years, PERS looks at your personnel and your operations, their ages and their expected payout someday for retirement. And they set rates, just like insurance and insurance claims. And I want to highlight that if you look at for the year into June 25, your rates are 26.18%. And if you look at June 30, the next time it comes up, it's 30%. So
That's for the general service members.
that's for the general service members. And then look at 22% for OPSER. 22% is about the same, 6% for IAP. The only reminder here is that as your personnel costs go up, remember your PERS costs will go up too. And that's just a reminder that you're stuck with those rates for 2 years. And so every 2 years, your rates, they say someday it will stabilize and go down. I'm suspected.
Not my lifetime. Every 2 years, it gets just a little bit worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of disclosures in the notes, but I think we've kind of hit enough there. Any other questions?
And speaking of PERS and these health benefits, and I guess I can do the math and figure it out, but I'm wondering about benefits as a percent of payroll.
I think you can hit that on page 32. If you look at your budget and your actual. So PERS is budgeted 455, health insurance is 376. And other costs, are in there too, but there's about 900 out of 2.7, about a third of the total cost is benefits, and about 2/3 is pay. So if you look at that, there's payroll taxes in there too, which is part of your employees. But the top four is really your personnel costs. About $1,000,007 out of 2.7. There's $1 million worth of payroll taxes and benefits.
So 1 million versus 1,000,007, we're well over a third.
Yeah, so if I look at 40% of 2.7,
You're over 50%.
yeah. Yeah, it's a big number, and we look at that, but there's not a lot
Yeah.
of ways to deal with. Just know it's in there in your budget, it's in there in your actual.
Percentages are a lot different in the private sector.
Yeah, they are different in the private sector. Other questions?
If there's not any other questions, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Red. Like, y'all.
Have a good day.
Okay, moving on. We have the minutes, the safety committee,
See you next year.
Yeah.
yeah. Comments, the safety committee. Hearing none, accept the motion to approve the safety committee, to accept the safety committee minutes.
So move.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Board of Directors regular session minutes. Comments.
I have I don't know if it's a place and time or not to do it, but should have made the comment a couple of months ago on minutes from July the 9th. This isn't appropriate, tell me and I'll shut up. There's a statement in here that concerning the solar project that Greg was going to send an email to you briefing everybody. I'm the only one that didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
There wasn't an email. We had a update at the next meeting.
Yeah, no, it's right here. Craig Berry will email John Ellis with suggestions and the intent and will then share with other board members. If none of the board members are in opposition, we should go ahead and let Craig move forward. Well, we voted on that and I voted no. And a lot of it was, when I think back, because I thought, well, everybody else got the email with me.
Don't see an email.
There was not an email, but we did update it at the following meeting. I didn't receive an email.
And
No, you were supposed to generate one.
What would you like then?
Pardon me?
What would you like? You want to go back and review?
I would just-
all that?
I don't even know enough. And like I said, this would not be the time and the schedule to be talking about it, but
We're going to be discussing the solar.
okay,
grant.
let's bring it up. Yeah, that's where it should be.
Discuss that, but in regards specifically to that, I did not receive an email, so I couldn't respond to everybody. But there was an update at the
Okay, well, then that's back to Craig, but we can talk about that later.
Well, we're full time, I'm busy.
the verbiage you just read, and I didn't review it, but is if any of the directors were not in favor, we wouldn't move ahead. Is that, could you read that again?
Seems to be what that
Is
said.
that what it said?
It seemed, in what you read, that's what I heard.
It says items that came up after agenda posted, and that's right here. John Ellis states Sado is offering a webinar regarding fire service funding. And then below that was a period. Greg Berry requests the board's permission to reapply for the solar grant using the existing information submitted, along with a way to share the solar source with the community. Greg Berry will email to John Ellis with suggestions and the intent, and will then share with the other board members.
The suggestions were, how can we get more community engagement? Because that was our weak point last time. And so what we did, we moved forward. John Ellis and I attended a city council
Yeah, I'm
workshop
aware of that, but
earlier this.
how come nobody got an email then telling us what you told the city council what was going on before?
I didn't have anything to add. I really wanted to get here. That was
Okay, I'm more interested in the next line.
Yeah.
Do you read the whole thing?
You want to read it?
Well, just the verbiage in that next line with the. Read it out.
There isn't a next line. Okay, here it is. Craig Berry will email John Ellis with suggestions and the intent, and will then share with the other board members. If none of the board members are in opposition, we should go ahead and let Craig Berry move forward.
That answers your question.
not really, because we met and had a discussion and voted on moving forward.
Well, that's my point. You had a discussion and you, again, we might.
I'm not here to litigate.
Let's move forward with that when we have
Okay.
a discussion on the solar. panel.
And I think we have right now, we're open for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would so move to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Board of Director workshop, acceptance of those minutes.
I mean, we accept the minutes. But board of director workshop. August 11th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finance reports. Acceptance of the financial report.
I don't have any unexpected expenditures to talk about. We operated within budget. We are, think our local government investment pool sitting at 1.2 right now. Is that right? About right. So we have enough money to get us to tax money in November.
And so we're comfortable, we're not going to need that line of credit one.
Yes, sir.
And that incurs no costs as long as we don't use it, correct?
No, it incurs cost.
It
And
does.
I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
It's in the thing.
Make a motion to approve the financial portion of the packet as presented here with a comment that I'd like to see a lot of the detail on the grants. Money, where it's getting spent, what's left, what's been spent. If you generate something like that, without.
Randy, can I refer you to page 19 of your book?
Oh, I believe something in there overlooked.
So if you go down, it's probably 2/3 of the way down the page under personnel services. Okay, let's go to page 20 of your board packet,
And what?
page 20. And if you go down Under materials and services, almost all the way, so it's about the center of your page, you're gonna see CWRR subcontracts.
And capacity grant.
Mike, I see those items as those line items. Would it be possible for us to have as the expenditures occur, where we can see what the actual expenditures are versus you got the grant admin fees at
I'll put
10,000?
invoices and work. So you'll see.
What I'm thinking, what comes to my mind when Randy asks that question is just like an Excel spreadsheet or something that lists the activities, what it costs, how much we spent, what the balance is.
Yeah.
So this gives the 30,000 foot. I'd like to see something that say, well, what we do that spent those money.
And in turn, that would also assist us, or if we have to do a quarterly report for the grant or something of that nature, because you've got all that information already collected.
Well, is there like a set aside account or a check register if they're paying a landscape company to trim bushes? I mean, how does that money get out of it? Do you guys write that check? Do we have to write that check? So,
Yeah, you'll see it.
so it's almost a totally foreign new accounting parts of that, like a sub account, I guess. So,
We
okay.
haven't spent any of that yet. It's coming up.
I haven't done any more. Thank you. Sorry to burden your extra bookkeeping, but I just want to kind of see that if I could.
I remember seeing a outline of what they were gonna spend earlier, so it's just not a ton of work for them. It's just me coming in and they know how much money they have to spend. They spend more money than we have, and that's on them.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So, I mean,
I need to just be able to answer to our constituents where our money goes.
Okay, so back to the financial report, looking for a motion.
I do have one more thing on the financial report. I apologize if this is going to be covered under the discussion on the loan, but it, right under where you were just talking, category 700 debt service, we've got a principal and an interest amount there with a principal of 200 and an interest of 8,139. And that interest is that, how long is that loan? I mean, you know, if that's a year, then that interest isn't too bad. If that's 6 months or 8% or something interest. Where did those numbers come from? That's what I'm asking. I understand the 200,000 is the loan. How did we calculate the interest at 8,100?
Because they told me that would be the percentage on it.
What is the percentage on it? That's what I'm really
I'm
asking.
thinking it's gonna be 8.1.
Okay, so it is eight.
No, that can't be right. That must be half of that, right? That was 8.1.
So that is for an annual, the 8,100, so 4%.
Yeah.
Or less. I see. Okay, that was my question.
Other questions on the report?
I'd move to approve as presented.
This is the finances.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I think our.
Oh, did you move?
I think I did.
I'll second Randy's.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
John Foster,
Yes.
Jim Stearns.
Yes.
John Ellis.
Yes.
Randy Court.
Yes.
and Craig Berry.
Yes. Any correspondence?
Um,
All right. Old business. All right, let's talk about the solar panel grant. Before we get into it, just an update. At our last meeting, Craig had asked if he could attend the Rogue River City Council meeting. There was concern about Craig attending on his own. I did attend with him, and we also ended up discussing about the levy there. The city council was supportive of us, but they had some questions. So with that, open for discussion.
So I received a letter. The intention of going there was to receive an updated letter of support from the city council. And they were overwhelmingly supportive of this project. And I just want to read the letter that they sent to us, and I can forward that to Jenna to forward on to you if you'd like it. It says, to whom it may concern, the city of Rogue River is submitting this letter with our strong support for the Community Renewable Energy Grant Program on behalf of Rogue River Rural Fire Protection District number 1 and their current solar project. The city of Rogue River supports the installation of solar panels with battery backup at Rogue River Fire Protection District. The training room at Rogue River Rural Fire Protection District is a designated emergency operations center and a public answering service point for Jackson County, Oregon. This means this room would be used as an instant command post and a 911 answering post for any large incident in the area. This was done for the 1996 flood. The training room has an emergency backup generator as required for an emergency operations center. However, the lack of diesel fuel is one of the first contingencies that normally occurs after an extended emergency. Solar panels with battery storage would provide additional backup power in the event of diesel fuel became unavailable. Funding the installation of solar panels at the Rover Fire District would increase the safety and resiliency of the entire region during natural disaster or other large-scale emergency. The city of Rogue River respectfully requests support of the Community Renewable Energy Program request made on behalf of Rogue River Fire Protection District. I just want to share that with you. If you want to see if you want to receive an email copy.
Well, what I'd like to really see, Greg, is a little more detail. Now you're moving pretty fast with this thing going out into the community.
I received permission.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a perception of, first, now we're going to get into the cogen business and take care of all this other power needs. We're in.
No, that's a false statement. We're not sharing this power. It's all right here. If we try to feed into the grid, disappear the power.
So what I'd like
here, that's not how those work. I mean, you're a maintenance electrician, right? You work with electricity all the time.
Yeah,
You know how that works.
for a living.
You don't fire, when the power goes out of your plant, you fire up a generator and try to keep your neighbor's lights on. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I need to know more about what's the KVA of these, this solar project total? What is it gonna look like physically, the eyesore of the neighbor,
It's 100,000 watt.
are your inverters sine wave inverters? Are they square wave? What
Pure sine.
what are the batteries? Are they lead acid? Are they, lithium ion?
Lithium iron phosphate, which is.
I haven't seen any of that. I don't want to just hear it. I want to see a proposal from these magic solar companies that spell out some of these details.
Yeah, I have all that. I can.
Let's bring it to a board meeting.
Okay, I'll bring it to a board meeting. Absolutely. Yeah, we have all that. So it's just kind of a headline views. It's 100,000 watts. It's, I believe it was 170 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, which would be plenty to supply our daily needs and plenty to feed back into it. Those are your basic things. But yeah, it's pure sine waves, 3 inverters. It's split phase, all that good stuff. All the stuff you're asking. I'm storing outside, even though this is very safe battery technology.
Containment, battery.
Yeah, they're in metal boxes. US panels, US racking, US made panels, US made racking. Not certain about the inverters, but they're trying to source those. That's the plan. But we have to get the grant first. I mean, this is really put the cart before the horse. It's a long ways. I understand you have a kind of an opposition to renewable energy. That's fine. I'm not trying to change your mind, but there are
Base load energy is what we need, not these.
We just-
renewable.
I haven't heard, what you just put out is more than I've heard this entire time about how this is gonna actually work.
It's the same thing I did
Let me
last year.
finish, let me finish.
1 second.
And you
have
got,
heard this.
you got your factory out here generating this power. We had this Cascadia event, might happen in 5 minutes, it might be 5,000 years from now. So power companies, we're dependent upon them to make distribution of this power. We're gonna use their lines and everything. What if their lines are all down? And one of the first things they do now is shut down the power. How are you gonna get power from here to places I've heard? Morro Heights is all excited. They're gonna get power. Our school district stuff right over here, they're gonna get power. the city of Rogue River. How are you gonna get the power from here down there? And
I've
who's,
never said that we're sharing power with anybody. That's not how.
well,
it
that's
works.
what's in the
Okay,
papers.
imagine this. Power's coming in, right? You have a giant switch. As soon as the switch detects that there's no more power coming from the utility, it closes and you keep all your power. That's how these things work.
So what, how's it gonna get to the people that supposedly are gonna receive it?
I'm not sure who started that.
Well, that's
misinformation.
the
but
mayor
that's
is
not correct.
gonna go to or wherever, Portland,
I understand you're
with
not.
this thing, and she's
But you're
telling them
wasting
all these
valuable
wonderful
time.
things. Craig, can
You're
somebody
wasting-
else talk once in a while? I don't understand how you're gonna make distribution to places that aren't gonna have any power lines. You can't transmit it.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
I don't think there is any distribution.
Anybody else?
That's what they, what's in the
Well, there's
paper.
no distribution.
I think
it's that.
Well, yeah, it's-
A lot of these people think that it's magic and they're gonna have their power on because we're putting a solar project.
Exactly. I've had people say, are you gonna change the name to Rogue River Fire and Power District? Because they're under the impression, and the mayor is perpetuating this thing. She's gonna go up to Sacramento and say, here's what we're gonna do. If it would, if it works, you can, I'd be all for it. I don't know. Well,
One of the discussions at the city council meeting was not about what we're looking at. Their discussion was for the city of Rogue River itself, to support their water system, to support their sewer system.
Yeah.
They had a lengthy conversation amongst themselves regarding specifically that and how are they going to just do all that. And the mayor was very active in focusing upon that. So I don't know if there's some convolution between our solar thing and what the city is trying to do with solar and everything. But I would like to propose this, Craig, for the next meeting. Can you bring in one, the grant that you're proposing written and have copies so all the board members can review the grant and any information that you have on equipment, anything that would impact the department here. Sure. Would that be a starting place for everybody?
yeah, we should have done that 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then I probably wouldn't have all the questions I got, but not only me, a lot of people are asking me these questions, you know, they want to, they see all this free power, emergency power coming. And I'm thinking, how are we gonna do that? And it was all indicated in the Rogue River Press, so if I haven't thrown them out, I'll bring them in, and you can read it yourself.
I need to read the Rogue River Press.
Yeah, I guess so.
And if that indeed is the case, we need to do some outreach that sets people straight that that's not, there's no distribution from here out. It is
Yeah,
power.
that's the impression. That's the impression.
Facility.
That's the impression they got. In fact, one guy was saying, well, how come you're asking for 80 cents if you're gonna be generating all this free power? I said, wait a minute, you're talking 2 different things. There's just a lot of confusion out there. I'm not the only one
Well,
that's
thanks for sharing that.
confused.
Appreciate that. I didn't know about that. There was that confusion out there.
Have you got a, like a street side view of what the back panels are gonna physically look like? I mean, typically those solar farms are pretty ugly.
I do have one of those.
Well, next meeting, if you'd have it, bring it if you would.
I don't have that. I have it.
And who's gonna do the inspection? Is the fire department gonna inspect to make sure this is in compliance with city codes and everything? Is that, you know, none of that.
I'll have Craig bring all that and Craig will be able to answer those questions. But whatever is built on this property has to meet current code.
But there's a whole,
The permitting process.
It's
From the permitting process.
Yeah, it's installed licensed electrician.
you know, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if this information would have been put out to us when we first started this project.
A lot of this information, it was my understanding, is just being captured from the previous grant submittal, which was available last year.
99%. So it's the only thing that's really changing is the dollar amounts that we're gonna ask for because prices went up. That's the only that's changing.
So why are we expecting a different result this time?
Because I'm trying a different tactic. I went and got the grading rubric and I'm changing the way the grant is written to say that you need to really focus on the fact this is 911. And they also changed the grading rubric as a function of my feedback and possibly other feedback. This was intended to help organizations like ours, and it hasn't helped a single fire department. And that's in the state, it needs to. And so I told them that it's like, this is about resiliency. This is about the people who are on the front lines. They need power just as much as the school.
I understand all that, Craig,
You know,
but I had some basic questions.
You don't go home.
When I go,
Right? We're
turn
working.
the switch on and the line's down. You know, if you would have explained all this.
A lot of the way I see it, a lot of it is perception, not, they don't understand stuff, you know, in that, in general. But my concern is a little bit with this project is, we're out looking for 80 cents a thousand, which is an increase in rates. Our primary job here is fire suppression, fire protection, and in our ambulance service. Those are our two primary things that we, you know, have to do. They see us now in people's backyards cutting brush, trimming limbs, and working in the creek as a grant. They see this coming up as a grant with this power generation. Do they think we're doing things and we don't need any extra money to do our fire protection and our ambulance service? I think a lot of it is just perception of people. They don't understand the, you know, the inner workings. And that perception may affect the way people vote for our budget, our budgeted money. So that's just my kind of concern.
Thanks for sharing that.
All right, so Craig, for next meeting, you'll be able to facilitate bringing all those items to the board, okay? Moving on, let's discuss the strategic plan.
Okay, beginning on page 28 of your board packet is the latest rendition of the strategic plan. Thanks to Jenna and Jenny, they dressed it up for us and made it look nice. It's very colorful. So you have the cover page. On the following page, we have
Page 28, 29.
Page 28 and then 29. Page 29 is our mission statement, vision, values, and motto. Then the next page is my narrative. And then the next few pages, we took the goals and the objectives, and we assigned a timeline and a responsible party and supporting tasks. So, I'm happy with this document. I'm happy with how it came out. I'd like to know if the board is accepting of it.
Timeline is great. Timeline.
Was that correct?
I said timeline is good.
I have one request on the plan. We decided to make a 3-year plan and we started it in 2025, which is almost over. So my recommendation is that we make this plan 2026 to 2029. So that we actually get 3 years out of the 3 years.
Do you have anything that goes past 27 in the plan? I know there's ongoing, but the timelines.
Well,
a lot of December 26th.
So when I pick these dates, you know, they're a little bit arbitrary. I just had to pick a date. I think what you do on a plan like this is in 1 year, you go back, you pull it up, you go, this is done. These things we need to start, these things we need to finish the deadline on. But I would like to do this again in 3 years, not in 2 years. But we decided to do a 3-year plan.
Mike, this is a living document, and with a living document, we should have an annual review on it, on tax completion and status of everything. My thought is if we stay with what we have currently here, and when we come up onto our 1-year review of this, if it appears that we won't be able to obtain these within the current plan timeframe, then we can modify that. On your last strategic plan, I noticed you were very successful in completing the majority of your tasks in a shorter period of time than I think was anticipated. So again, these are recommendations on timelines. They're, you know, as you do your annual review on it, if there is an item that doesn't fall, or if there's, you know, other things that came up that impact that, I think that's our opportunity to address an extension should we need it. That would be my thought.
I agree. We're into 25 already, so. Move forward how it is.
Mike, will this be published on our website?
Yeah.
Any other questions on the strategic plan?
Was there anything the union saw deficient in the strategic plan?
The union, as a whole, we together individually and together, we discussed it. We sent all of our recommendations to chief. The chief took our recommendations and put them in here.
Okay, looking at the local option for the levy. When we were at the city council meeting, they, two council members that were in attendance at our board meeting when we were discussing the levy, they were at their board meeting. They gave an overview from their perspective on our levy to the city council, and the city council was supportive of our increase and everything. However, they said that they would enjoy having a presentation brought to the city council where the chief could explain in detail about the levy and everything. And with that, I met with the chief and shared that with him, and Mike has some plans on how he wants to address the levy and how we're going to market it.
Was that the same city council meeting they discussed?
Yes, sir.
Do we need any board action on the strategic plan? Not something we need to adopt, correct?
I thought we've already approved the strategic plan.
I'm okay with where we're at.
Okay.
Okay, so, first of all, page 34 of your board packet. I noticed yesterday that this is the SEL 805, was sent in. I noticed yesterday I actually gave you a draft copy, that was not my intent. I wanted to give you a county recorded copy, which is what I just handed you. So it has been recorded with the county and it will be on the ballot. And then on page 35, from the SEL 803, there's notice of major election, so you have the recorded copy of that. This we got from Jackson County, and then the explanatory statement is on page 36 of the board packet. In addition, I just handed you a fact sheet that I created. And what this is it is my attempt to put out facts about the local option levy. And when I do that, I have to fall within ORS 260.432. So I sent this off to the Oregon Elections Division for their review. I haven't got that back yet. So what they do is what's called safe harbor. They review it and make sure that you are stating facts and not promoting the method. So it's possible that a sentence or two may change in here, but I worked hard not to. I know you haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I worked hard not to.
When do you think we'll be back from them? Right on.
It's actually a 3-step process. So I think a week or two.
So this is somewhat a fact sheet that we can use if we're writing a letter to the editor as we approach the election time window. What would be the date roughly that we should start thinking about really hitting that and getting that out in the public? November,
I think the last 2 weeks in October,
October, the last week.
and the election is on November 4th. And this document will also guide our people, let's call it talking points. You know, if somebody calls down and has questions.
Yeah.
It'll guide our people on how to respond. So other things. So we'll keep talking about this for a second. I would like to do a mass mailing. Middle to third week of October. This would be a good, format, maybe not exactly, but this would kind of be close to what we would mail out to people. I can get to Minuteman Press, they have all the addresses, mail it out to the public, and I'd like them to hit their mailbox about the same time that the voters pamphlet hits.
How do you do that? Can you get a list of the addresses within our fire district?
I can get the list of addresses that closely represent a fire district, so there will be some people.
What's your zip code, Randy?
27, 97527.
And see, we're 26. Those two are huge.
Yeah.
If they go by zip codes, you know, and very small percentage of those zip codes are in our fire
Yeah,
district.
you hit Grant Powell.
So I have to work with Minuteman Press and try to narrow that down a little bit.
They've got
by
some way to
street.
do
So
that.
There's
we
databases.
can,
There's databases. I can see how you registered and when you voted, going back like 10 years. It's all okay.
I can.
Not
get
exactly
the,
who you voted for, but if you voted. So there's databases out there.
I can get the mailing address that's close, but it's not gonna be exact.
But this occasional one, but still
Just
to
to
get a percentage.
Give rough cost associated with that.
I think it's gonna be a couple thousand.
And since I've never seen a horse too dead to beat, I'm going to bring it up again. As we do this, I would like to keep I really like what was written on page 36 in that explanatory statement that says, as with past levies, fire district plans to use this proposed new levy to fund general operations and staff positions. And I would ask we leave out reference to buying fire apparatus and equipment out of this, because that's not, in my opinion, what the primary use of this is for.
It's confusing when you throw apparatus in there because we got the two different levies.
Yeah.
One is specifically for capital, which is apparatus and everything like that, so.
I think perception, at least, and again, that magic word is, we have pretty nice equipment.
We
At this
do.
point in time, when they see
Yeah.
our stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with what you said.
And the emphasis is, you know, that the union is supporting it and everything. The emphasis is the funding for our day-to-day operations, and that's personnel, and that's, you know, all those
I
items.
guess the other thing, look at is, if this doesn't pass, kind of putting all our eggs in one basket. If this doesn't pass, we don't have enough money to not make cuts until 27. Because if this doesn't pass, we don't have, and we have an option to come back again in May and ask for it. But in June or June 30th, our entire current levy of 50 cents goes away. So it's not only that we don't get the extra 30, we lose that 50. And that's going to have tremendous impacts in 26.
It's addressed on the second half of this page. What happens if the levy does not pass? So,
But what I'm saying, like, if the levy doesn't pass, our current tax, rate drops by 50 cents to 2.18, and I don't see that up. If it goes to 2.18, we have immediate impacts.
So we could use a word like it's gonna substantially affect our operational ability, I guess, in like a letter.
I mean, if your plan is that if this doesn't pass, we come back at the 50 cent, then the 268 would be correct. And
so it says if it doesn't pass, this will result in decreasing service levels to balance the budget. Are you saying you want me to be a lot more specific than that?
no, I think that's great, but in what I read, you said our impact will hit in 2027.
It would actually be sooner than
It
that.
would be
because
soon.
Theoretically, we'd lose our current 50 cents too.
It'll be next June, next July.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so if this levy measure does not pass, River Rural Fire Protection District will have a negative budget balance crossed out beginning in 2027, comma. That will result in decreasing service levels to balance the budget. Okay? I take out the word 2027.
Can you make it from,
Wouldn't it be realistic?
June to December of 26? If we drop to 2.18? From July 1 of 26 to December 31st of 26, if it drops to 2.18?
I don't know. Right. What do you want me to make this thing?
No, I'm just,
Would it be appropriate if that comment states, if the levy measure does not pass, Fire Protection District will have a negative budget balance, period. That will result in decreasing service levels to the community.
I think we'll,
Period.
and maybe this is correct. Maybe, let me back up. And what I was asking is 27 is correct if you think we drop to 2.18, a total package drops to 2.18, we can maintain services from July 1 of 26 to July 31st of 26, or to December 31st of 26. If we can do that, then this is correct. If we can't, then it needs to say beginning July 1 of 26, because that's when our levy goes away.
Can we put a rough dollar amount on what that loss of 50 cents per thousand? I mean,
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
So people can see it.
just a round figure. I can say, you know, that we're gonna lose X number of dollars out of our operating budget, maybe. Maybe sometimes
And
dollars.
And we're actually, or I'm actually talking about two different things here, I guess, because we're confusing, this ballot measure is for 80 cents.
Yes.
The concern is if this doesn't pass, our current 50 cents goes away.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to get to. How do we represent that? It's just not a loss of 30 cents.
So the 50 cents, I understand your point. As far as the timeline goes, the 50 cents is good until June of 26.
Correct, until the end of
So-
June of 26. That's why I say July 1 to December.
I don't believe it impacts us that much.
Okay, okay, good.
So the second point. Can I put a dollar amount on it? That was the request. That was a question.
Yeah.
Yes, I can, but.
Well, no, that's real easy. You look at our current budget, that's what that 50 cents brings in.
Yeah. I think people, would see a dollar amount and grab onto that more than a percentage or per thousand amount. Just, you in a short, like a letter to the editor type of thing. And it wouldn't have to be an exact number, just,
So the dollar amount, not passing the 80
Yeah.
cents or not passing the whole thing?
well, not passing the whole thing. If we lose the 50 cents and obviously don't have the 80, that's a number that you've got to trim out of our budget somehow. That's a big number.
So if the levy does not pass, our district will experience a shortfall of,
Yes.
I put in that number, beginning in,
Currently, that 50 cents brings in $389,755. If we lose that, I think we would have immediate impacts.
Yeah. So you
say that again?
According to our budget, $389,755. If we lose that come July 1, I think it would have immediate impacts on it.
And I think, the one thing we keep saying, well, we got to 50 cents. That's not a guarantee. Okay,
No,
if we're going forward with this, asking for the 80 cents. Okay, if we're not successful in that, we, in theory, don't have that 50 cents.
correct.
So we need to present that picture to them, not a picture of, okay, well, we don't get the additional 30 cents. We still have this 50 cents, which would only be if we pass it in a May election. And there's no guarantee in that. So,
this is where this number that Jim generated.
Yeah.
Will be a real eye opener, I think, to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we need to present it that way, not because you're presenting it as if that 50 cents is there. Well, you go to elections, and if it doesn't pass, it's not there. That's what we would be looking at.
So the current tax levy of 50 cents per thousand will expire in June of 2020. So I'm going to say the Riverville Fire Protection District will experience a funding decrease of X if the levy does not pass.
So, Mike, you have an opportunity to go back, fine tune this and everything. And we can bring this back to the next board meeting because you're saying the last 2 weeks, when you would want to set this, correct? So we have one more board meeting.
I think it's good, and I think we need to have it available to all of us because people are going to be asking us, should I support this? And it'd be nice to have talking points.
No, because it has to go to.
Okay.
What did you say again? I'm sorry.
I said I'd like to have it sooner because people in the community are going to be asking board members, and it'd be nice to have talking points that this is what it's going to do for us, and this is the impact if it doesn't pass. So I appreciate it getting out. Yeah.
And Craig, if you could, with the meetings and things, if you could get something put out there that the power, stupid as it sounds, the power thing has nothing to do with this levy, this raising the thing. It's people are thinking we're wasting our money on power. And the perception is out there. So if we can separate that would help
the board members,
this
with all
cause.
members individually to get back to you with comments. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, in addition, I am going to the city council on October 16th to give a presentation and answer questions for the city council. Also met with Mark Regals, who I think is the president of the Kiwanis. And I'm going to go to a Kiwanis luncheon. We haven't set a date, but they meet every Wednesday, and we're going to try to, he's going to look to see if they're sponsoring a community dinner next month. And if they are, then I can speak at the community dinner. That would be a, those relay. It'd be a double advantage if we get it in. And then, possibly the Chamber of Commerce, I don't know, but I haven't been in contact with the Chamber of Commerce yet, but I know people. So I'm gonna make the attempt to get information out there as possible.
So there's no issue with you as the chief, going out to pitch for this thing. There's some restrictions on that.
There is.
What are they?
Haynes lot,
He has to basically remain neutral.
Yeah, he's got to present a neutral thing. He can't
I'm
add,
all for it. don't
He
get me
can't
wrong, I just
advocate.
want you to-
what,
Yeah.
what I've done in the past, matter of fact, when we were trying to get the capital at the end, I went as the fire chief, but I took John Bond with me because he could say, guys, you need to vote for this, and you need to tell all your friends they need to vote for it. So I would suggest maybe you take somebody like that that can be an advocate for it and keep you out of hot water.
I'm gonna call John Paul, that's a great idea. If I take him with me, I won't get to speak, and that's fine. But, yeah, you're right. He should get out of that. So I will contact him. Even if he doesn't go with me, he has a lot of things out there.
He'll sort it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we're at with the local block levy. I feel good about where we're at. We'll spend the next month trying to promote it with the council.
If it gets down to it, I'd be willing to volunteer to stand down there at Ray's Market and hand out literature. If that would do any good, or we don't just throw it away, but.
Yeah.
And thanks for the.
Don't be
offer.
bashful to count that some.
No.
If you need any help. Meetings or anything like that. Okay, Columbia Bank line of credit.
Okay, I'm on page 37 of your board packet. So first of all, the line of credit was approved. There are some fees associated with that. If we take money out, well, so first of all, we'll back up. The fees associated with it are 1/4% origination fee, which comes out to $500. And $125 processing fee. So the total would be $725 for the line of credit to exist. And then there would be a $250 annual fee for it to exist. And if you approve this and want to move forward, this would be a 3-year line of credit that would sit there unless we use it. And in 3 years, we would have to reapply for it.
So is that $250 annually if we don't utilize the fund?
Correct.
And if we reactivate it after the expiration date, do we have to pay all the new fees, or would it be the $350 again?
I don't know, but banks like to charge fees, so my assumption is you would have to repay the fee.
So if we don't use it at all, we're looking at roughly $1,500 for 3 years.
$1,000 to start, yeah. Yes. $250 each subsequent year, but $1,000, I know it's only $1,000. A lot of money. When do we need to activate this, to have access to the fund? Can we wait and see if we actually need it before we spend that $1,000?
No. So we either have the line of credit or we don't have the line of credit. So
I mean, how long?
you need to decide now. It's done. The only thing, it goes into our account. It's into our account. It's available as soon as you approve this resolution and I send them a copy.
And it's, what's your recommendation here? Because you're pretty confident we don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty confident we don't need it this year. I'm sort of confident we're gonna pass the levy. You know, if we don't pass the levy, we need it next year.
Well,
it's not enough.
Yeah, we asked him for extra.
That's a good point.
It's,
And we won't have the ability to repay it. Plus interest,
That's the bigger
you know?
and are we locked in at today's current interest rate for all 3 years, or is that?
The interest rate will be 1.2% over the prime rate. So it will change.
It'll vary depending on prime.
So my recommendation is that we secure the loan. And in a year, we revisit it and decide if we're gonna pay $250 to have it sit there for another year. Or the third year. Here's what I'm concerned about. If, we had a pretty cheap fire season, next year may not be the case. Maybe we have a busy fire season, maybe we host a large fire. Maybe I blow up an engine in a fire truck. It would be easy for us to spend the $200,000 that we have sitting in contingency or whatever, and I think we need to have a backup in case something unexpected happens.
So you're looking at it as an insurance policy?
What? And after hearing that, I will support it and go for it. What I would like to make sure we all understand is this is a tax anticipation safety net to get us through the 6 years. This is not money that we go tap or allow
Budgeted.
future administration to tap into. It is just there for things go bad and we need to.
Well, wouldn't this also be when we put together next year's budget, a item of that budget, and it would have to pass in that budget to be able.
But I think the only thing that we wouldn't show it as revenue in the budget, the only thing we would have to show in the budget is the expenses for having the loan set
Right,
there.
so if it's gonna be an annual review at budget time specific for that, so, yeah.
The thing, my concern is these things have a tendency to, well, we need to buy a new command car, we need to buy something, we have that money sitting there, we can go get it and pay that back over and that's, I want to make sure that's not what this is for.
So two things I want to point out. If you look at the resolution that you see on page 37 of your board packet. So a statement that I made on this resolution, halfway down the page, under number 2.
It is where?
Halfway down the page, number 2. It says this resolution only authorizes the existence of the line of credit. An additional resolution shall be required to authorize expenditure of line of credit. So I can't spend the money unless you approve it. And the other thing I would say is that if we did that, we need to do a supplemental. Start that money.
That's some good control, I think.
Yep. Hey, do we need to take a vote
Yeah, I
on
think
that?
so.
Roll call vote?
We need a motion.
That might help.
I make a motion that we approve resolution R 25-16, number 4 as presented.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
John Foster,
Yes.
Jim Stearns.
Yes.
John Ellis,
Yes.
Randy Fort,
Yes.
and Craig Barry.
No. Explanation. We have $1 million flush according to our audit. We're seeking additional 30 cents, which is gonna make us flush again. Sure. That's all.
Right. Moving on, new business.
So there was no new business.
I have a quick question for you. Is this gonna be, are you gonna talk about this District 3 thing in your report?
So no.
Okay,
Not the regional thing.
yes. Did you- Okay, this came out and everything. I was curious a little bit. I see they were getting a grant to fund all of this and everything. Is there going to be any match requirements? Is there any monies that are gonna be coming from us for this study?
So initially, if we go back, let's say 6 months ago, we budgeted $10,000 to fund this study. And that was our portion of it. The whole study cost about $150,000. But then we got grant money through Jackson County to fund it, so we keep that $10,000 that we funded it. I don't see us expending money to support that study. Really at all. They're gonna come in here and go over our budget and a number of things to us study here. And I don't really see how we incur expenses.
Are you going to be participating, Chief Hussey, in who they hire as a consultant to do this? Is there an RFP going out or?
Or, yes, about RFP has been created and is going out. So Fire District 3 will be the contracting authority, and I won't be part of the contracting authority. I will just participate at our agency level.
Did everybody get their copy of this and had a chance to review first questions? Okay. One other item on new business, the Grants Pass Rural Fire Protection District, that was a recently formed district that they have up there. I know they're going to start having some of their board meetings. Do other folks here on the board have any problem with any of our board members attending their board meetings just to see what they're doing, where they're going, and what their plan is?
I saw an agenda posted last month. They had a board meeting, so I'm assuming they're gonna be monthly. And no, I think it's healthy for us to reach out to neighbors, and they're a new neighbor. They're not funded yet, but well, they are partially by the county government, so they're getting insurance and getting things put together and.
Become a mutual aid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if everybody is in consensus that there's not a problem with board members attending that, well,
I think I should reach out and say
be good
we want to
neighbors.
be good neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, I think that would be job well at some point down the road, obviously. But yeah, I agree.
Okay, Chief?
Okay, I'm looking at page 38 of your board packet. So we had the second of 3 OSHA visits. We invited them to come in. This is not a surprise. The first one was a walkthrough. The second one was policies and on systems. And I would say that she did more of the walkthroughs than the first person did. And I have the results of that. So I'm just going to briefly tell you what they found. They found on an SCBA air regulator, a gasket that was in disrepair. Posting our breathing air quality test results, we have to post those in the room.
We have, post in the compressor
We have
room.
to post it next to the compressor.
Yeah.
Those are there. We have to create a hazardous materials response plan.
And
As
that
firefighters
is,
on that,
and that is called a hazmat team.
I don't know exactly what that's gonna look like.
It-
I have to, we have to calibrate our CO2 monitor down below, got to fix, tool mounts on the grinder. We have to review our sharps plan annually and some other plans, bloodborne pathogens, HAZCOM, we need to be reviewing annually. And we'll be doing those in the safety meeting, along with some other policies. We have to elect the safety committee chairperson. We just told our person that they're the safety officer, therefore you're the chair. We actually have to elect them.
OSHA brought that back out to us about the election.
Yeah. Uh,
I never knew that.
They
Kind
got
of
a lot of
splitting
spare time.
hairs.
They got a lot of spare time over there.
Found an unlabeled container, and then our charged container, we have to have the lid on it. I'm real happy with the results of this, you know, everything that they found, is easy for us to fix, and then, continue on, so. Good job to Cameron and our safety.
Absolutely.
Does our insurance, our insurer ever, do similar safety inspections and stuff? Because in our industry, our insurance company sets a way higher bar than OSHA. Just curious.
I
know
would
it's
say
different.
that they do I'm trying to remember what they call it, safe practices, but they have you fill out.
Yeah, just kind of curious.
Well,
Safe
the-
practices.
Yeah, they do the best practice thing, but yes, they do send, Wilson Airgood as I mean, it comes around and actually does a walkthrough. I don't know who that is now. Maybe they haven't done it for a while.
So, in addition, I am on a committee with the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs to attempt to get legislative action on OSHA. So OSHA fines went up tenfold in the last year. And there is, including from OSHA, even OSHA for this fully here. There needs to be, you guys need to look into getting some legislation done. So we formed a committee. Jason Johnson is on that committee. He's very well connected, and the idea behind it is we're going to reach out to our legislative folks and try to obtain some legislation to give ourselves some exemptions on.
Is OFDDA taking an active role in this, you know?
I don't know about OLP.
I mean, that would be who represents us, so we need to check onto that.
And this is brand new, so I don't have a lot to offer you on it right now, but I will let you know.
Keep in the loop. Thank you.
There is a OFDDA conference coming up. And, I plan to go to that. Whether it's funded by the district or not. I would be glad to bring that up at that as an action item that board needs to take on.
So the conference is in November at the end. And the question is, are there any other board members that would like to attend? If not, I would like to attend, but I want to make sure that you guys will have the opportunity to do that. It's really good seminar for the directors. So.
Before then, you can provide me, and I'm sure through your group, you'll get it,
Tomorrow I'm meeting,
the action items that we need to be addressing.
tomorrow I have a meeting on this, so I'm gonna reach the document with that, so.
Monthly reports.
I have one.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
CWR grant update, the contractor is going to start October 13th. And we believe they will take approximately 2 weeks to do their work. Wards Creek Restoration Initiative is scheduling 2 public presentations and question and answer sessions for the community. And there will also be an article in the River Press, to inform the community on what will be going on.
Back on it, did Nikki, I think's her name, supply us with like any letter that shows her past experiences, or I think she met with us and talked a bit. She was at an NGO in Southern California or something like that. Was there any documentation of that?
I don't believe I have.
Okay, I'm just curious if there was.
What a dynamo though. She's been doing this for a little longer than Rogue River, pretty much.
So as this occurs, I will provide a spreadsheet on the expenditure. Jenna and I attended SDAO training, and then we also attended local budget law training. And for the most part, we're doing everything that they recommended that we do. The one takeaway that both of us came up with is there have been a few times that we have not used resolutions when we probably should have. Resolutions need to be attached to money that's not specifically designated in policy. So things like the board policies, internal controls, things like that, we probably should have attached to it. Minor thing, we'll pay closer attention to that into the future, but it was good training. Every time I go to this training, I learn something new with that. One more thing on grants. I forgot to tell you last time, we submitted a federal grant for a reader board. We asked for $46,000 and that's submitted. We'll see what happens with that. Then I have a question about your grant. What's the name of your grant?
Is the, CREP, 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 Community Resilience Energy Program.
And that's state money, correct?
Correct.
500,000.
Probably, yeah, more, a little bit more than that, by 50.
550? Yeah. All right, that's all I have there. Thank you.
Monthly reports. Comments on monthly reports? If not, we'll move on to public comments.
Need a room.
We approved the safety committee things and everything. They don't, aren't they just informational? Have we,
I move we know and reports.
all in favor?
All right.
Okay. No public comments.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
Sorry, on the explanation statement. G, last paragraph on that, page 36. Just, the last sentence after the fire district, board of directors and 5 fire district citizens. Are those citizens participating in the budget? So there's 5 additional, just 5 other people.
That's our budget committees, is the 5 board members and 5 other people.
And how are they elected or
They're appointed,
appointed by you?
and generally what we do is when there's a vacancy on it, we.
Go ahead.
When there's a vacancy on it, we usually post those, advertise them, and ask for letters of interest from folks. It's been challenging to get folks interested to do it. We have a great budget committee right now, and on it. And those appointments are for 3 years. 4 years. And so there's always someone coming up, or, so there is opportunities for folks
Next time there's vacancy,
to be
blow your name.
involved, to get involved with it.
After I thought.
Hint, hint.
After I thought.
Already, items that came up after the agenda.
I just have one. I was going to talk about the GP board, so thank you for doing that. And the other one is I just want to congratulate the administration on the budget report, on the audit report, excuse me. I think that went very well. I was very pleased to hear the auditor's report. I think you guys need kudos for a job well done.
And the other thing is I've got my bio, I'll send it in electronic format for the website. We talked about last go around, everybody did a bit of bio together.
The chief has my bio.
Good to get, I'll look forward to looking at them. Greg, you got yours done? Sure about that.
All right, she might be able to scan it.
Whatever, I can scan it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Suggestions for future items? Got the items for you on your grant stuff? Okay. All right.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.